Thank you for staying tuned. Zenith Bank PLC just released its earnings, reporting a pre-tax profit of about 176.18 billion naira for the 9 month. Okay, for these and other markets update, let's talk to Temple. Hello, Temple. Good afternoon. So what are the details of those results released by Zenith Bank, and how is the market reacting to it?
Well, we've seen so much interest in Zenith Bank since the numbers were released this morning. Again, the interest actually commenced yesterday, just before the numbers were released. We saw some cross dealings on that particular platform. Around 80% of the entire transactions in the market yesterday was as a result of the deals that we saw on Zenith Bank. And so this morning, now that the numbers have come in with an impressive top line as well as a bottom line that looks so good at 150 billion naira plus, inching higher all the way from 144 billion naira. That looks a bit attractive to investors because, again, if you look at the earnings per share for the 9 months period, that was quite positive as well, up by more than 4%. And so right about now, investors are trying to place a bet on it to see how it will go way higher. I think it's around 19 naira per share as we speak. But the investors' interest is also cutting across a couple of other banking stocks. We've seen FBN Holdings, which had been at 5 naira 25 kobo for some sessions now, costing back to 5 naira 35 kobo, and perhaps it could hit 5 naira 40 kobo to settle before it gets to its resistance level of 5 naira 50 kobo. UBA is another company that declared some sort of very impressive numbers recently, 2 days ago, and of course the reaction of investors to this has continued to be very, very positive. We're seeing some buy sentiment. It's gained by more than almost 1%. So far in trades, in transactions today. But surprisingly, Chimeze, we've seen 122 million units of shares traded on a microfinance bank, and I'm talking about Omoluabi Microfinance Bank. We're yet to have details of what is responsible for this interest or demand for the shares of Omoluabi Microfinance Bank. This is a microfinance bank based in Osun State, southwest Nigeria, and investors are really, really keen to know what's going on this particular company. Is there some kind of an offering coming up, or some kind of a development that's going on that the market is yet to know about? We do hope that the management of this particular company will make this notice or information about this development known very soon, Chimeze.
All right, in all of this that you have talked about, at intraday today, we saw the index still trending in the negative territory. What's the situation at the moment? Any impact from the Zenith results or the Omoluabi thing that you've talked about?
Well, nothing yet. Nothing has changed from that direction, the negative direction. The market is still in red, and the reason for that is because Dangote Cement has lost some value as we speak. So that is weighing down on the market. Investors are also taking profits on a couple of other banks, Guarantee Trust Bank at this point in time. So that's why we're seeing the weight down in the market right now. All of that is weighing down the market. I think MTN is not also doing well, and if you put the impacts of what the negative transactions or negative sentiments on Dangote Cement and MTN Nigeria will be having on the market, if you put those impacts together, that's really, really heavy. Ditto for what we have yesterday when the market saw a flat market breadth. There were 12 gainers, there were 12 losers. But we saw interest in Zenith Bank, in UBA, in Stanbic IBTC. But all of those gains were outweighed by the negative sentiment that we saw on MTN and Dangote Cement. And that seems to be what we are also having at this moment in the market, which is what is suppressing what should have translated to some kind of gain on the all-share index and, of course, the equity capitalization of the exchange. Chimeze.
All right, Temple, let's hope things turn around soon. The managing director of the International Monetary Fund, Kristalina Georgieva, says both the Central African Economic and Monetary Community and the Economic Community of West African States need to figure out what will best serve their economies. Speaking at the just concluded World Bank IMF annual meetings in Washington, D.C., Ms. Georgieva said it's important for both unions to anchor their currencies in a way that facilitates price stability and is beneficial for their economies.
Both CEMAC and ECOWAS at a stage when they're looking for their monetary union in the future, as we just heard. And the question is really for these countries to figure out what would serve their economies the best. Decision is not taken. Consultations among the countries are ongoing. What is important is that they can anchor their currency in a way that facilitates price stability and it is beneficial for their economies. How would they go forward, given that there are two ongoing discussions, is something that the IMF is following up and is quite keen to support a best possible outcome as the discussions go on. Now, you ask a question about fairness, and I think we need to broaden it beyond monetary system and think about the African continent and its present and its future. The African nations have taken a very important step forward through the Continental Free Trade Agreement. This is going to be a foundation of integration in the region, in the continent actually, not in the region, in the continent. A long way to travel, but the first step has been taken. And to my mind, what is so very important for Africa is to reach its full potential. Today, what we have is we have some countries that are going very strong and some countries that are lagging behind. In fact, it was very disturbing, heartbreaking to see that most of the 45 countries that are going to grow even slower than the rest of the world are in sub-Saharan Africa. What does that mean? It means that the distance between advanced economies and developing economies, instead of shrinking, may expand. So I think the issue of monetary system is an important one, but a much more important issue is to generate sustained growth and to boost the integration in and within the African nations.
Kristalina Georgieva, Managing Director of the IMF. And that's a wrap on the program. Thank you for watching. I'm Chimizie Obi Iwago.